Hi, everyone. I'm Don Rooney.
And I'm John Timpane.
Welcome to the musical Innertube, the podcast born out of a mistake.
We once meant to introduce a soothing musical interlude, but we said soothing musical Innertube, and the name stuck.
On this podcast, we talk to interesting people about their interesting lives, jobs, hobbies, and passions.
Difference makers who really make a difference. Today on the musical Innertube, our guest is the great guest of the podcast, that beautiful human being, Joy Stocke, poet, fiction writer, essayist, memoirist, consultant, and publisher, and also a world-class chef. She's co-founder and editor at Tree of Life Consulting and Publishing, and I want that t-shirt. And for many years, she co-helmed the remarkable and beloved online cultural publication, Wild River Review. Among her books are a travel memoir, Anatolian Days and Nights, and a splendid, delicious cookbook, Tree of Life, Turkish Home Cooking, into which we will be delving today. You could not have a better guide to cooking, writing, almost anything. Welcome back to the musical Innertube, you beautiful human being, Joy Stocke.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Joy, here's a trick question. What was the last thing that you cooked that you'd never cooked before?
This is funny. I've been a private chef for a lovely couple for the last few months. And they are meat and potatoes people. I am pretty much a vegetarian. Now, I cook any kind of meat, but I had never made a roast tenderloin before, ever.
Oh.
And almost every cook will be, what are you talking about? You've been writing recipes. And so I got a sous vide machine.
Oh, yeah.
And I sous vide'd the tenderloin, so I just had to sear it in a pan. I was so afraid of getting it too cooked, not enough cooked. And so there's something I never cooked before, and I bet if you talk to a lot of chefs, there'll be something so common, you'll be surprised. That's my dish.
Yeah, I've never cooked one before. Have you ever done a tenderloin, Don?
No, but my wife and my son have both done tenderloins in the sous vide. In fact, my wife got a sous vide like you did, specifically to cook a tenderloin, and it does a great job. And that's something that that a lot of people don't know about either. And a lot of chefs are starting to use sous vides as well. It's you get a big pan and you fill it full of water, and then the sous vide is like a huge rod that heats up, and you put it in the pan and lock it to the pan, and the electronics on the top, you tell it how warm you want the water to be. And it heats up the water, and then you put the food in a plastic bag in that water, and it heats it exactly right. And it comes out, the tenderloin comes out perfect every time.
Yeah, and you can season. What I love about the sous vide, because now I use it, and it makes a beautiful salmon too. You can control the temperature perfectly, but you can season the meat. So I've been doing lamb chops in it, like a rack of lamb. Wow. And I rub the lamb with a paste of preserved lemon and thyme, and you seal it in the bag, and then that flavor goes into the meat. So you can season your meat that way, and people think you've done something genius-like.
Yeah.
So I can bring it to your house, John. You can try it.
You can. Well, yes, I'd love to try it. I haven't had a tenderloin of beef since 19... Okay, so we're going to go into your Turkish cookbook today. And in your Turkish cookbook, on page 110, we find a recipe for Russian potato salad. Now, first of all, you were telling us why a recipe for Russian potato salad should be in a Turkish cookbook. What's the story behind that?
What I was always interested in, and I want to commend also my writing partner, Angie Brenner, because I co-wrote this book. I had a traveling companion throughout all these adventures. What we were always interested in about the country, which I call Anatolia, is that and especially Istanbul, was such a melting pot and a nexus for the Middle and Near East. And it was a home, particularly really up through World War I, of everybody came there. And it was a real trading hub because you could get to the Black Sea, the Crimea, et cetera. When the Bolsheviks took over in Russia, a lot of the wealthy Russians, no different than today, actually, a lot of the wealthy, they were called White Russians, came to Turkey, came to Istanbul. They settled on the European side of the Bosphorus, and they brought their recipes. And this recipe is a traditional Russian dish. And it became a classic in particularly fancy restaurants. And then it traveled from there, obviously. My Eastern European grandma used to make it when I was a kid. And it's really delicious. So that's why we included it.
Lucky you. What makes it Russian? What is the ingredient or the treatment that makes it Russian specifically?
You know, I can't tell you. I would, if I looked at it, I would say, I'm looking at the recipe right now. It's kind of the area. I would say, if we want to say Russian, I would say Eastern European, because it's got dill, which is really classic in Eastern European cooking, and it's got pickle, which is also, right? So, and paprika, you associate Hungary with paprika, really. It really, I'm looking at it right now. I think it was one of these mashups that,
right,
was made famous by the White Russians, so to speak. So
I have to say, I made this. This is the reason, many years ago, we went to a particular event that you were throwing, and it was sort of a potluck, and I brought a huge bowl of this, which disappeared in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I have no business making this because, one, I've never made potato salad. Two, I don't like potato salad for the most part. Most potato salad is bland. The potato salad you run into, most of it is bland. I don't really like mayonnaise. And there's something about the combination of the mayonnaise and large pieces of potato that I don't like. That's just me. So I have to say, this was really different. And I think that's right, that the Eastern European aspect of it, that the pickle relish. So first of all, let's just go down the list, I think. So for this...
Can I say something before we go down the list, John?
Sure.
Because I've read the list. You sent us this recipe yesterday before we started taping. And I'm looking at this, and I'll tell you, one of the things that flashed in my head is that it has carrots, it has peas, along with the potatoes and the pickles and everything. And I'm thinking, this looks like it could be like Russian stew with mayonnaise in it. Basically, it has everything but meat, seriously, that would go into a stew. To me, am I way off on that, Joy?
No, you're not. And remember, meat, the way we know meat, or how it's been sort of lionized in our culture, meat wasn't eaten to the degree we're talking about.
No,
so
it was expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you were, they would probably serve this with smoked fish of some sort as opposed to meat. So this is a pretty hearty salad. It's got eggs in it. You could eat it as a main dish almost. Yeah, it's
sure
a meal.
You could. So I did a couple of little tiny tweaks, tiny.
Love it.
So first of all, okay, so for the dressing, we had the mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of sweet pickle relish. I think that makes a huge difference. Chopped scallions, which is a little tiny different. I think a lot of people just bung onions in a potato salad. And of course, I love dill, fresh dill on anything. Oh, yeah. We have kosher salt, which you explained last time about why kosher salt's a good thing. We have pepper, and then as Don said, carrots, Yukon Gold potatoes. I mean, come on. I live on those things. That's wonderful. Frozen peas, 4 large hard-boiled eggs peeled, 1 tablespoon chopped dill. So that's for the salad itself. The first dill was for the dressing. And then paprika. So the only thing I did, I chopped the potatoes after they were cooked. I chopped them into little bitty pieces, right? Not so that they crumbled and lost they were still pieces of cooked potato, but not big old pieces. Because I want to see what that would do for the bulk of the thing. And I snuck just a little tiny bit of mustard in there. Just a little tiny bit, Is that okay? Did I kill it by putting the mustard in?
You killed it by making a delicious potato salad.
There you go, John.
Thank you. You're nice. No, it was such a terra incognita for me, because to me, potato salad, you go to parties, and a lot of the time you could tell it was made in 2 minutes. This one's not going to be made in 2 minutes. It takes some preparation. You have to, make the eggs, but there's parts of it that could be made the day before. You chop the carrots the night before, the scallions, put them on water, drain them. You could do that.
Can I ask a question, Joy?
Mm-hmm.
For large, hard-boiled eggs, peeled, do you really have to tell people to get the shells off the damn eggs before they put it?
So this is really interesting about writing recipes. There's so many little details that if a recipe is well done, you would never know. And you have to put every single detail, even if it seems silly. That's part of the etiquette. To me, recipes are not exactly poetry, but kind of. You really need le mot juste or the instruction juste. You need to have it. So as much as, and this is why when you read a badly written cookbook, you won't see that kind of thing. And I know it seems ridiculous, but somebody's going to catch you on it.
The food police.
The food police. Yeah. I give everybody, I say, take a dish you really love, like your tomato sauce that I love, John, that yellow.
Thank you.
Write it into a recipe. They're not as easy to write as you think.
Yeah. And sometimes you feel the need to explain why something's in there. Like, I feel the need to explain why the vinegar is in there.
But that would be nice because that's why there are head notes. Do you guys read head notes in cookbooks? Because I love reading the head notes. They tell you a lot.
They're my favorite part of your book.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. This is a great cookbook, guys. You should really get it because Joy talks about where this dish came from, this particular Russian potato salad. And she says, serve alongside minted lamb burgers, page 177, or toss in a cup of chickpeas to make a hearty main dish salad. I almost did that. I almost said, hey, I'll just put in the cup of chickpeas. What could be bad?
That's my catch-all for everything. Throw in some chickpeas. It'll do. And
and run like hell.
And run like hell because I'm telling people who don't like chickpeas to throw them in. They're like, we don't like chickpeas.
I mean, I've had successes and I've had failures as a chef. We all have. I mean, having failures teaches you for next time. It's unfortunate, but it's important to have failures. But this, I think, this went away faster than anything I'd ever cooked. People had some and then they had some more, and it went away. You know
what you said that I really liked? That you chop the potatoes very evenly and smaller. That's a good technique to chop ingredients similar in size because they absorb, particularly the potatoes, it'll absorb the dressing better. You've got more little surfaces to absorb the dressing. When you get a potato salad, sometimes there's big chunks and there's the mayonnaise and it's bland because the potatoes aren't absorbing any flavor.
Sure. And I also hate a potato salad where you have to take your fork and cut the potatoes down to bite size. If somebody's already done that for you, that's maybe a little more enjoyable in the eating.
I had never thought of that. I just wanted them to be smaller. But I liked it for the same reason, Don, that you bite into a potato that's cold and it's covered with mayonnaise, which one already hates if one is me. It's not especially fun, especially if there's big chunks of raw onion in there. See, here, I think Joy has hit upon it, that you want to chop scallions. Which, that's Joy, talk about that because that's an interesting.
Yeah, well, the original recipe, like when you see really old ones, they would go out and get the wild onions from the yard,
Of course.
Right? And they'd have the dill, they'd have the onions, they might even have the carrots and, they have chickens. This is simple food. This is not fancy food. The peas elevate it, to something in that era of more special. But that's where the scallions, come from. And I love the flavor of a scallion. They're sharper, they're piquant. And the thing is with onions, have you guys noticed, some onions taste really good. Some onions don't even taste that good,
Yeah. The big yellow ones, which are the ones that most cookbooks steer you towards.
Yeah.
I think maybe and perhaps the way they're grown, because again, we learn that food suppliers find out that something is very popular and grow a lot of it right away. And sometimes they just breed all the flavor out of it in order to meet the demand. And I think maybe that happened with yellow onions.
I mean, they should taste good. I mean, a good yellow onion is a thing of beauty if you can come upon one. But I think Don's got a point there is that, they're sort of like, the Plymouth Valiant of the 1960s. There's so many. But they should have more flavor to them. I'm not fond of, everybody throws red onions into everything now, like red onions in guacamole, which I object to. But maybe that's just me. They add some crunch. They certainly do add crunch. And what do you think, Joy, about the red onion?
Well, I like a red onion, but I will say they can be a little sharp. And so you can soak your onions in water to get some of the sharpness out of it. I must say, I don't like onions in my guacamole at all.
Well, I would think that something like red onions, especially in a guacamole or maybe in a dressing like this that you're putting in a potato salad, would tend to overpower all the other ingredients in them.
That's the thing about this recipe. It's funny that you picked this because the balance is so good. That's another thing. I go to bed and read cookbooks. That when I'm stressed out, I read cookbooks because there's a solution in your head.
Yes.
You've made it. You never have to make it. And this recipe is super well balanced. And I wonder if that's why it took off the way it did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's really, and the other little thing, peppers came from the New World. That's what's so fascinating. You think of the Aleppo pepper and all these wonderful Middle Eastern and Near Eastern peppers in food. And that all came from the Columbian Exchange. I find this really interesting that, paprika, this is really a melting pot of a recipe in many ways.
Yes.
And the pickle relish, did you guys have pickle relish on your hot dogs when you were kids? Were you a pickle relish?
Yeah.
All the time.
Still do.
We had pickle relish on hot dogs, but not on hamburgers. Pickle relish.
Yeah. We had regular pickles on hamburger,
right.
Dill or bread and butter.
Sourdough.
Yeah. But also pickle relish. Now, again, this is my mom. When we were kids, she would make tuna salad. So she would take tuna fish, put it in a bowl, smother it in mayonnaise, and pickle relish. And that was tuna salad. So after I went to college, I came back and she said, "Would you make me a tuna sandwich?" And I said, "Sure." And I got the tuna out and I got the mayonnaise. She said, "Just a little mayonnaise." She said, "The mayonnaise, just washes out the tuna." And so somewhere between me leaving, after high school graduation and me going to college, in a couple of years, she lost her taste for mayonnaise or wanted a little more of the tuna taste to come out. But I thought that was funny because when we had tuna salad sandwiches when I was a kid, it was like mayonnaise with a little tuna in it,
Oh, my God.
That's kind of how it went. And so it was funny that she changed her mind on that because she wanted the tuna flavor a little more to come out. But we put pickle relish in that. And when you stop to think of it, tartar sauce for fish is basically just mayonnaise and pickle relish, right? And maybe a little.
Basically, I remember being a kid in the Midwest and growing up Catholic, we didn't eat meat on Fridays.
Exactly.
And my mom would get fish sticks. And oh my God, we loved fish sticks. And you got this little pack of basically pickle relish that you mixed with mayonnaise so you could make homemade tartar sauce.
Tartar sauce.
We were really living the dream, I'll tell you.
We'll be back to our podcast in just a moment, but first, here's a soothing musical interlude.
Joy Stocke has established a reputation all over New Jersey and far and wide as an editor, publisher, and writer.
She has written a book of poems, The Cave of the Bear, a travel memoir, Anatolian Days and Nights, a love affair with Turkey, land of dervishes, goddesses, and saints, and a cookbook, Tree of Life, Turkish home cooking.
She also co-founded the highly regarded online journal Wild River Review, and with her team of editors and designers went on to co-found Tree of Life Consulting and Publishing, which is focused on cultural and cross-cultural histories and memoirs. For more about Joy, check out her Facebook page at facebook.com/joy.stocke or her LinkedIn page. That's linkedin.com/joy-stocke-941-2B66.
And now we return you to the musical Innertube already in progress.
Well, speaking of living the dream, I think we should go to our second recipe, which Joy brought in. And I tell you, Joy, it takes chutzpah to bring to a podcast on cooking what is essentially a recipe for Rice-A-Roni. Or at least that's what you said. It's not really. Talk about this dish because it's got this amazing history, but and so many of us grew up on it.
So, Rice-A-Roni, the San
Francisco treat.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now that's going to be running through my head for the rest of the day.
Hey,
Thanks for the
everybody.
earworm.
Sing along with the bouncing ball.
Really?
I love this recipe. We really did grow up on Rice-A-Roni. My mom was a mom of the 60s who tried every newfangled thing that came along. And if anybody is in this, remembers, you can look up the commercial. But it was. You guys grew up in California, but California was the golden dream for us Midwesterners, and San Francisco, and it was a cable car. So the marketers did a great job on romanticizing this very simple Armenian rice and basically spaghetti pilaf. But it's got an interesting past, and again we go back to Turkey. Now we're on the Persian border of Turkey and the Armenian border. Armenia spilled into was part of Eastern Turkey. There's a town there called Van or Wan, as it's pronounced. The V is not pronounced. And that was the center of Mount Ararat was the center of the Armenian culture when things were happening everywhere and the Kemal Ataturk was taking over. Turkey was becoming a republic. It was the end of the Ottoman Empire, and the Armenians were expelled from Turkey. And so this is an Armenian recipe. And so a lot of Armenians came to San Francisco. There was an Armenian community in Northern California. And in fact, some of the vineyards, I can't remember the names of them, were founded by Armenians too. So one of the refugees was a woman named Palazzo Capitanian, and she settled there, and she brought this classic recipe of the Near East, and it is simply rice and pasta cooked in butter with chicken broth into a pilaf, and then it would be served. Usually they'd serve it with kebabs or something like this, and this would be on the table almost every night. This was really a classic.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she teamed up with a guy, her neighbors, Tom and Lois Di Domenico. Mm-hmm. He happened to own a pasta company. And so she had made this dish. And they, can you imagine sitting together over some wine and, probably in a jug that you got somewhere. And why don't we sell this? Sure. And they started making it and packaging it for sale. And that became Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat. And as every household of the 60s had this on their table, and it's in existence. You can go into your store now and buy it. And it's not bad as a convenience food, but simply easy to make. And I think it's delicious.
And is this better than the stuff in the box, do you think?
All right. So I'm going to be a kid of the 60s now. Of course, it's better than the stuff in the box. But from a nostalgia point of view, the over-salted, over-monosodium glutamated stuff in the box, hey,
I have to say that the thing I remember most about Rice-A-Roni, which we had all the time, is the slight aftertaste.
Oh, yes. Yeah. With the MSG kicking in.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's still around. It's still around. I think it's a Quaker Oats product. I think they still make it. I'm sure a lot of people eat it, several times a week.
And just remember, it'll last into Armageddon. So
That's true.
That's true.
That's true. If you're in your underground bunker, you probably got several boxes of Rice-A-Roni. Several cases there. I do. Yeah, it is similar what John was saying to like Kraft macaroni and cheese. That's another one that we all grew up on as kids. Yep. And then you become an adult and somebody serves you mac and cheese at a potluck or whatever, and they've made it. They've boiled the macaroni, they've melted the cheese, and then they put a crust on top of it. And that was, for me, the end of my innocence, if you will, as far as macaroni and cheese. I went to somebody's house and they had, crust on top of the macaroni and cheese. And it was like, wow, that added a whole new level of flavor that I had never experienced in my mushy bowl of macaroni and cheese, Kraft macaroni and cheese when I was a kid. So I think your version of Rice-A-Roni may be similar to that in the sense that it's not, not only not heavily processed, but maybe there's a little more freshness to it or a little twist in it that you couldn't get in the box.
Yeah, I love the fact, once again, that if we would like a nicely balanced vegetarian dish with complete protein, we can just get ourselves some cooked chickpeas and add it to it once it's finished, right? I see that are there any parts of cooking this that you want to be careful about? Take us through. I mean, when you cook it, is it the kind of thing you could sort of cook it with half attention, or do you need to be a little bit careful with it?
So that's what's interesting about simple recipes. It's like we were talking about earlier with a tenderloin, right? It's pretty simple. But
yes,
this recipe, I'll read the ingredients. It's butter. We have in our recipe angel hair or thin spaghetti, but you can use any spaghetti, just as, and then basmati rice, because I like it. You can use any rice too. Chicken stock or water or vegetable stock and salt. So it's real simple, right? You could always have this on hand. The key is when you're sauteing, what makes it a pilaf is you saute the pasta. You get it a nutty flavor. Mm-hmm. You can burn it in a second. If you're not watching it and stirring it, you can burn it. And I've done it. So it's a great question. And it requires just that little bit of care. Just make sure not to burn the vermicelli, and then the rest, you time it and you can make it ahead, and there it is, right?
Right. Yeah.
You can do all kinds of things with this. You can add the chickpeas. I like to top it with parsley, but you could put anything, cilantro on top. You could.
I love it. Right. I love cilantro. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people have that genetic mutation where cilantro tastes like soap, and I just have to say, I remember the first time I ever tasted it. I still remember it, and I said, "What is this?" It was so beautiful. So that's a beautiful thing. And by the way, I just want to point out that when you say medium heat, can you talk about medium heat? Because I think medium heat is the hero in a lot of cooking. That a lot of us cook at too high a level. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I see that, melt the butter in a medium saucepan over medium heat, which you see in so many recipes, but it's absolutely essential.
Yeah. We, and myself included, tend to cook at too high of a temperature. Yeah. And again, that's a time element, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And cook over medium low even. For this, medium's fine. You risk less risk of burning, and it's just patience. And I think we're all talking about food here, listening to you two. It's a sensual pleasure. That the preparation should be, in my mind, a sensual pleasure. Whatever, even if you're just boiling water, that you're not supposed to watch pot, but I do. And those little bubbles come. So that's the reason for medium. All you need to do is turn away on a higher heat, and you've burnt it, and you got to start over.
Yeah, true. That moment when the butter foams, which you point out here, that's when you add the spaghetti and lower the heat. That moment when the butter foams is such a beautiful, delicate,
right?
moment because you're there. If it's at really high heat, the butter goes straight to brown. Again, the notion of patience being part of even a basic dish like this is very moving.
I actually think the simpler the dish, the more we should put thought into it. Obviously not boil water, put it in a cup to make tea, but then you've got the tea, right? And then I think in a world in which we don't have a lot of control, and that's ever thus. It's not like we're all of a sudden in a world in which we don't have a lot of control. I think that's true for the human race, so to speak. That taking this time and following this and doing it this way, you have control, and then you create something beautiful, and then you eat it. It's the pleasure is all the way through the process, and then to dining. And honestly, whether you're blessed enough to be in community or you're by yourself, because really, even when we're by ourselves, we're never fully by ourselves. There's
Sure. And it's that old, it's not the destination, it's the journey part of it.
Always. And that's the beauty about food, because we can, and that's why I take cookbooks to bed. As I said, we all go through periods in our life where they're challenging, and that's the human condition. But I'd go to bed and I read my recipes, and I've just made an amazing dinner, and my kitchen is perfectly clean. And John knows from following my Instagram feed, every once in a while, I will post the aftermath of my chefing. And when you get a beautiful meal and any of us cook, we know what's in the kitchen behind there, unless we have an assistant, Dobby the house elf or something, following us around.
Yes. And by the way, Joy Stocke's Instagram feed, folks, is one to follow, because whether she's cooking, whether she's going to literary events, whether she's with family, it's such a trip. And I agree with you. I mean, the best dishes are the ones that are made in a single pot, because you haven't destroyed the kitchen, which I usually do, right, Don? I mean, I turn around and go, where do I live?
Somewhere in the middle of that mess over there. Yeah.
Where do I lie down so I can sleep? I mean, wow.
I want to say two things. Joy's the connection to Joy's Instagram is, if you go on her website and go to her biography, down at the bottom, there'll be a link to her Instagram feed. The other thing, I want to specifically ask something about the getting the butter foamy and adding spaghetti. I know in a lot of rice dishes now, they would like you, before you add the water, to get the rice a little toasty. And they advise you to put the butter in and put the rice in, get it a little toasty, and then put the water in. This has you do that with the spaghetti as well as the rice. And I know in spaghetti recipes all the time, it's just throw it in the boiling water.
Yeah, right.
They don't have you do anything with the spaghetti before you boil it up. So what is the value in toasting the spaghetti a little bit? And would you do that in other dishes?
You know what? While we're talking, I'm going to try it with something. I'm going to try to do a spaghetti dish where I do this in the butter, then I add boiling water and cook it. I'm going to see what it does. What this does is, spaghetti's got starch on, it's a carbohydrate, it's starch, and it toasts it. It caramelizes it a little bit, and it gives it a beautiful, beautiful flavor. And it also, if you think about it, if it's rice and pasta and you just add boiled pasta to it, it's kind of unattractive. With this, you've got,
Tim Payne family surprise is what it is.
Yeah, right. It's like, we grew up with Midwestern families, right? Where it's like that white stuff, the white potato with the white fish with something else. You're like, okay, Mom, do we have to? Here, have some white sauce on it.
I want to hear what happens there, Joy, when you do that.
I have an assignment for anybody who's listening. This could be kind of fun, but for you two particularly, take a recipe you really love and write the recipe for us. Like, let's get a thing on the website where we have some of our recipes. But write it for me, because I'd love your tomato recipe. Really, that was delicious. And Don, I'm sure you have this. You were talking about us, your brownies. Oh, but you can't give your recipe, right?
Yeah, well, now I can find it. Yeah, it's my wife's recipe. So yeah, it's hanging around on some computer somewhere. I can find it. Yeah, put in the the brownies. Or, I could do a hot dog. You boil it up, you put the relish on it.
And one like hell.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that sounds delicious. Hey, it's funny. Why don't you write your hot dog recipe? Actually, that sounds fun. What kind of bun? What kind of hot dog? What kind of relish? I'm sorry I was rather callous about that. I now want your hot dog.
Well, the only thing I would say about a hot dog, seriously, is I get the beef ones. Because the other ones, I know that there are some other ones that are a mixture of pork and beef, but the beef ones are the only ones, they have all of the slogans, they plump when you cook them and stuff like that. But the beef ones seem to hold a shape and a taste a lot better than the other hot dogs. The other hot dogs just seem to lie there, and the beef ones seem to sweat a little bit and have a little more character, I want to say. If a hot dog can have character.
I have to ask a question.
And John has character, so if John has character, a hot dog can have character.
I have almost as much character as a hot dog. That is the best thing anyone's ever said. One thing I was going to ask, did you guys prefer the kind of hot dog bun with a top and a bottom, or the kind that was slit in the middle and just open? Because the first time I ever found one of those, I thought I died, and the hot dog just lies in the little.
Oh yeah, that's the New England style. And
is that what it's called? Okay.
Yeah, when you go up to New England and you get a lobster roll, they come in those kind of buns.
Oh baby, yeah. I prefer those now. I mean, I don't know why, except I sort of like seeing the hot dog there before I demolish it. Okay.
You're making me crave a hot dog all of a sudden.
So
it's coming up on lunchtime.
Thanks a lot, Don.
Sure is. Yeah,
well, Joy Stocke, as always, you've taken us through a very fast half hour and change, and made us very hungry. The book we've been talking about is The Tree of Life, Turkish Home Cooking by Joy E. Stocke and Angie Brenner. And you can get it, and it has some great recipes. We've been talking about one of them, which is the Russian potato salad. And Joy brought in some what she calls homemade Rice-A-Roni, which I am going to try. And maybe I'll just get a whole shaker of MSG just to make it have that down-home tang.
Just like Mama used to make.
Ooh, mommy.
And we will put both of these recipes on the website so that you at home can follow along and try it yourself.
You got to do it. All right. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, guys. You're a complete delight. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful day.
You too.
Happy cooking.
And thank you for listening to the Musical Innertube.
Hey, let us know how we're doing. Send us an email at musicalinnertube, all one word, @gmail.com.
Do you know someone with a great story to tell? Let us know. Send us an email or log in to our website, musicalinnertube.com, and click on the microphone in the lower right-hand corner to leave us a voicemail.
And while you're on our website, take a few minutes to listen to past episodes of the podcast. They're all there, along with pictures and biographies of our guests, blog posts, and lots more.
And as always, our thanks to virtual band Car Radio Dog for providing us with our theme music.